Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I'm so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you. Whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 152nd episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. And this week, we're going to Pickwick because for the first time ever, my family went to Pickwick. You know how people say you can travel the world and sometimes overlook the adventures to be had in your own backyard? I feel like I am late to this Pickwick party because, as I said, last weekend was my first time ever staying there. I've driven through it on the way to or from going to the Shiloh National Battlefield, but we have never actually spent any time there. My small family was wowed, really. Pickwick was just not on my radar. My mother spent most weekends in the 1960s and 70s at her family's lake house on the river or later on their houseboat. And so I grew up hearing stories about Pickwick all the time. But by the time I was born in the 80s, those Pickwick years had passed and we went other places. That was until I had friends who just turned their family lakefront home into an Airbnb. And we decided that it would make the perfect location to celebrate both Father's Day weekend and London, who is now our teenager in the family, his 13th birthday. Now, I was unprepared for the large area that is considered Pickwick. When we would get restaurant recommendations, and we got a lot, and we had some really good ones, so of course we could not go to every one of them in a weekend. But I would look at them in comparison to where we were staying to see how far they were. And I was surprised, like some of these recommendations were 45 minutes or an hour away, some even further, hour and 10 minutes down the road. And that's because you have 3 states, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Alabama, that if you're going there to Pickwick, that you could be staying in any area. So it encompasses a lot. Where we were was right down the river from Eastport, Mississippi, but we were right over the Alabama line. We were also then very close to Iuka. So since we were staying at a lake house from friends who live in Iuka, they had a lot of great recommendations for that specific area, so we didn't have to drive very far. Unfortunately, then, that meant there were lots of other places where we had recommendations that we didn't even get to go to because they were further, so that just means we're going to have to go back. So I'm going to include some of the places we went to and some of the recommendations we were given, so if you find yourself in a different part of the river, these might be closer to you. So I think a lot of people stay on the Tennessee side, which was more of like a 35 to 40 minute drive from where we were staying. So some of the restaurants that we went to that all were really impressive. We started off going to a Mexican restaurant when we went Friday night. We were going to get there later. We had some activities in town in Tupelo. Our sons have been doing a lot of summer camps, and so we didn't get there as early as we wanted to on Friday. So we thought we'll get there, get settled in, hopefully get to see the sunset over the river, and then go to dinner. So we went and had Mexican because that's always a crowd favorite with our family. And so we were recommended to go to Santa Fe, which is in Iuka. Now, we eat out at a Mexican restaurant once, maybe twice a week. So we have eaten at, I would say, every single one in Tupelo, which is not just a couple. We know how many restaurants there are And this one was delicious. I love going to get Mexican food because I'm a vegetarian, so I always have great options. But it's sometimes your places that, maybe don't look like they have that wow factor from the road that are the best. Kind of like your family-owned, more hole-in-the-wall type place. The food was delicious, and I would definitely go back. In fact, I would drive the hour to you could eat at this restaurant again because I loved my entrees so much. It was a wet burrito, and they made it vegetarian. It was delicious. The verde sauce, fantastic. So we ate there for dinner. I'm going to hit some of the restaurants first, and then we'll talk about other things. Breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. And you're going to know this because next week I'm doing an entire episode all on my favorite breakfast places I've eaten at in my life. So it's going to be really fun. If you love breakfast foods, definitely tune in to next week. But we went to this restaurant called Cream and Sugar. And I had eaten here a few years ago, I believe, when we went up to Tishomingo State Park. But we went for lunch. And so we went here for breakfast. When I say it was one of the most delicious Eggs Benedicts I've had in a long time. And I eat Eggs Benedict on a regular basis. Fantastic. I recommend it. It was packed when we got there Saturday morning, but they were really working hard and bustling to get tables cleaned up. So as soon as some people left, other people would have a table. So we did not wait long at all to get a table, and it was great. Our 8-year-old Christian loved his chocolate chip pancake. It was just great. And so I would definitely recommend that for breakfast. Again, that's another place. I think I'll drive up there just for breakfast. Okay, I've got to go through some of these others a little more quickly. We went to Red Hut for ice cream. Now, it was about a 35-minute drive to Red Hut. And this is one that a lot of my Facebook group recommended. A lot of my friends on Facebook recommended to go here for the ice cream. It was the tallest ice cream cone I've ever had. And when I say we had 5 of us eat ice cream for $13. It was worth the drive. Logan decided not to eat ice cream because he was a little bitter that I decided to go get dessert right before we were going for dinner. And he's not a huge dessert person, but 5 of the 6 of us will give Redwood Hut our stamp of approval that it was worth the drive for the ice cream alone. The next day, we had lunch at Eastport Marina, which has breakfast and lunch. And then for dinner, we ate at Country Squire, which is your typical fish and steak restaurant, but everything was fantastic. Other recommendations that we didn't get to, Earl's Grill in Crump, Tennessee. There's a restaurant right on the river called Aqua that is now going to be Earl's in Pickwick. So that's going to be opening up very soon, if not already. The Outpost was the #1 restaurant that everyone recommended. We drove by there, but again, we already had plans, so we did not go there this time. The Pier, highly recommended as well. Haggie's Catfish Hotel near Shiloh, we have eaten there multiple times. So that is why we did not eat there this time, because we go to Shiloh quite often, and that has been on our list before. And Top of the River, where I've also eaten at before, is another good fish place. Activities, what did we do the whole weekend? We enjoyed the views from the lake house. I'm going to include the link for the lake house. It was not on the busy part of the river. That's what we loved about it. It was like on a little tributary. And so because it was not on the busiest part of the river, even though it was a holiday weekend being Father's Day, it was not super crowded. So yes, there were boats going by. People were skiing, and you could see people that were, pulling inner tubes and some jet skis, and there were some pontoon boats, but it was not super busy. And so we really loved that about it. We read on our balcony overlooking the river. We played games in the rec room because the rec room not only had 3 big TVs, but there was a foosball table that transitioned to where it could also be air hockey and ping pong. So we had a lot of fun there. We enjoyed the hot tub that was included. Super nice hot tub. And then as an extra treat, we got on the water. So with the lake house, there's not a actual, boat or wave runners included. But my suggestion is if you happen to have friends who have a boat or wave runners, there is a place there on the pier to dock them. So we had friends come pick us up. And so we got to ride wave runners to lunch our last day there on Father's Day. When we went to Eastport Marina, I have not been on wave runners in years. London and Christian have never ridden on them, and so they got to ride on the back of them and absolutely were impressed. Like London said that it was the best birthday weekend. And you have to think about this. My boys are very well traveled. They've been on 10 plus cruises all over the Caribbean. They've been to Europe multiple times, Disney and Universal every year. They've been all over the Caribbean, every beaches resort, and they loved Pickwick. So here's what I think is very important. I love going new places, whether it's near or far. I love going to new countries and new continents. Like, that is something that's very important to me. But it's also important for me that my boys enjoy places right down the road. Like I said, basically in our backyard. And Pickwick was beautiful. I was very, very impressed by somewhere so close that I had not been, that I instantly felt a connection to. Maybe it's from my family connection, growing up hearing stories. But there's so many things you can do here. Whether you're on the water, fishing, going to J.P. Coleman State Park, where you can rent boats. Going to that, you could drive in. It is the only drive-in left in Mississippi. And we've been here several times. So we didn't go this time, even though they were showing How to Train a Dragon. And it was on our list to do. But we just enjoyed being at the lake house so much. We spent that entire evening Saturday there that we didn't want to get back out. So there's a lot to do that we can do a whole nother trip, and we definitely will. So if you've been to Pickwick and have some suggestions about what else you should do, what else we should do when we go another time, or if you would like to share some pictures and other suggestions, please join our Facebook group, Heather and Logan Whimsical Destinations, and we'd love to hear your Pickwick adventures. That's all the time we have for this week. Tune in next week. Whatever you're doing this week, life is a great adventure, but it is what you make it. Take the trip. Make those memories. Life is short. You won't regret it.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.